But those nodal points also are very few. So we do not know how to reach there, how they can come and collect these materials. And I do not want to bring it out, but I want to say that if we are not known about those policies, if we are not being able to store this hazardous material, which is hazardous in a particular way, we may be putting them in a soil or river or water in unnecessary manner, which is unwanted, and we are doing it because we do not have any kind of norms. So what I want to suggest that with the international rules and regulation, I think we should bring it out for our domestic use, and it will be very, very helpful, because hazardous materials can affect the living being, non-living being, and overall it will be affecting the environment. Dr. Hota is here, he is leading the, I am also in some of the committee with him, and climate change is one of the very important thing which is happening. And I think exposure of this kind and the kind of subject that has been, I will in fact ask for more rigorous, more focused topics to be covered also in near future in further conferences. And maybe one of the topics we can take it up in our educational thing, that we have a program or a focused training center in Indian Institute of Packaging. So I see that is a very, very important. I wish for a very successful day today for all of the interactions and the knowledge that we can develop. And you should have a very good day with a very effective conference today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Professor Dr. Saha to kindly felicitate the dignitaries present on dais with the floral bouquet and a memento. Our chief guest, Dr. Manoranjan Hota. Ladies and gentlemen, a memento and a floral bouquet to our chief guest, Dr. Manoranjan Hota. A very hearty welcome to you, sir. Keynote speaker, Mr. Subodh Gupta. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please extend a warm welcome to Mr. Subodh Gupta, our keynote speaker for the event. And a memento. And now our special guest, Professor A.K. Ghosh. A floral welcome to Professor A.K. Ghosh. A very hearty welcome to you, sir. And a memento. Thank you all. On the occasion of the National Conference, the Institute has published a technical souvenir to facilitate the delegates. I now request our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Manoranjan Hota, to kindly release the technical souvenir of National Conference on Export, Packaging and UN Certification of Hazardous Goods, Testing and Labeling of Bulk Containers. I request her to kindly release the technical souvenir, which has been specially designed by the Indian Institute of Packaging to facilitate the delegates.
Ready? We really want to preserve it.
No, but the content may not be hazardous.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this we release the technical souvenir. Thank you all. With due respect, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Subodh Gupta, Managing Director, Triveni Gerresheimer. He has 30 years of experience in specialized food and pharmaceutical packaging. Currently, he is the Vice Chairman of Indian Institute of Packaging. I now take the opportunity to invite on dais Mr. Subodh Gupta to address the august gathering. Please welcome Mr. Subodh Gupta on dais.
Good morning, friends. Dr. Hota, Professor Saha, Dr. Ghosh, Dr. Alam, Rakesh Bhai, ladies and gentlemen, my friends here in the audience. Very good morning to all of you once again. It is my pleasure to be here for this very important program which has been organized by our Delhi Institute and Dr. Alam. See, look, I don't want to be talking much about the UN certification. We have experts, the testing, Dr. Saha has spoken about. Let me just touch upon a little about 2016 and the uncertainties that we had. We all know that 2016 we saw a lot of new developments all around the world, starting with Brexit. Then we had Mr. Trump coming in as a US president. Finally, 2 months before, we have the demonetization. And demonetization, I think, threw up a lot of challenges, and we saw a lot of innovative Indians coming out and facing those challenges. Talking of uncertainty, till yesterday afternoon, I was very uncertain whether I'm coming here or no. So my uncertainty continues here in 2017, when Dr. Saha called me yesterday afternoon and asking me to come and become our keynote speaker. But this uncertainties, which throws up challenges, throws us a lot of new opportunities for all of us. And what happens is that we need to adapt to these changes. And for us, I can only say that uncertainty or change or adapting to this change is a new norm of life. The sooner we adapt, the better we become and the more challenges that we can face in our life. I will just touch upon a little about the packaging industry, what is the size of the packaging industry globally and where does India stand. According to the latest data available, packaging industry globally is about $871 billion US. Indian industry as of now is about $24.6 billion, which will grow to about 32 billion by 2020, having an annual compounded growth of about 11 to 12% per annum. However, within the packaging industry, the major growth is coming from paper and plastic. Paper is, packaging is supposed to be growing between 10 to 12%. Plastic will be growing at about 20%. Glass by about 5% and metals about 6 and 7%. And amongst the most important, packaging, it is the food which constitutes or which takes away the bulk of our packaging. Food is approximately 65% of the entire packaging material that we use. Next is pharma, like Dr. Saha pointed out, almost about 20%. And cosmetics is about 5%. And the remaining 10% constitutes of almost about everything else. Now, when I talked about the size of our packaging industry in India, which is only 24.6 billion vis-a-vis 871 billion globally, this shows the enormous opportunity and the growth potential that we have in this country. We are, just 3% of the global packaging industry. And what are those challenges which we need to really, address to take our packaging industry into a high growth areas is something we in packaging have to really address. One of the most important, I think, challenges that we have is quality. Quality is something, whether it is quality of the product or the quality of packaging. Dr. Saha gave an example of packing chemicals, and then because of their hydroscopic nature, there's a blast in the ship and all that. So we really have to understand what are the global norms of the packaging. Why are we way behind a country like China in terms of exports? I was reading somewhere just day before that China's global export in 2015 was something about $2.3 trillion, vis-a-vis Indian exports of just about $270 billion, which means we are still 10% of China's export globally. And we may not have a very good, thing about the Chinese quality, but that is not so. If China is exporting such a bulk, such a huge amount of, products world over, their quality has to be universally accepted. So quality is something we all have to really look at and really ensure that our quality parameters are globally acceptable. The second challenge for us to be, becoming an exporter would be uh, to have affordable, innovative technologies, which will ensure our being, competitive world over, which can give us an edge over our competition. At the same time, we need to also scale up our production capacities. Many years back, I was talking to Rakesh Bhai that why is our plastic industry, especially, is so small. Why is that we are not able to be as globally competitive as China? So he gave me an example, and I will just share with all of you. His example was that in India, when we start, especially plastic industry, we are always having a bottom-up approach, which means that we'll start with a very small piece of machine or a small equipment with a low capital investment, and then we grow up our businesses. Whereas in China, they will start right from day one. If they want a plant, they will start from the largest plant. If Windmoller would make a plant of 5 tons an hour, they would ask for a 10 tons an hour plant. Am I right, Rakesh Bhai? So I think that was one approach. I think we need to learn that rather than having a bottom approach, can we have a top-down approach? Can we start from the plants which are, the global size, which bring us the economies of scale, which bring us the right technologies, which make us globally competitive. And of course, another challenge while we are focusing on the export would be, are we following the best global practices or the GMPs in our production? And that is what was very important when we as a manufacturer were looking for the pharmaceutical export market. We realized that production of the product is just a fraction of the total package of the goods that we make. It involves many other things just other than making a small plastic container. Plastic container, we realized, or manufacturing, we realized, was just about 20% of the entire understanding of that business. So we have to understand what are the best global manufacturing practices, which we must adopt in our country, in our systems, to become globally competitive. And the last and not the least, which I think every packaging manufacturers and we also in the plastic industry have to address an issue, is about environment, the concerns about recyclability, concerns about reusability and all. While these are the various challenges, at the same time I believe that we in India have enough capability, enough competence to take on to the world. Programs like these which have been held today are very important programs which are organized by IIP. IIP always has an objective, to promote the cause of packaging in our country. And conferences, exhibitions are one of the medias which we have always adopted. I would like to talk about what we have just done in the exhibition. We have signed up with Messe Düsseldorf, who will be partnering with us with our India Pack exhibitions in future. The first of this we have in this year between 26th and 28th October in Delhi. And it's a long-term arrangement that we have with them, whereby the exhibitions will be organized by Messe, and the conferences will be organizing. So coming back to this conference, like I said, conferences like these are enablers, are knowledge sharing platforms, are opportunities for us to deliberate, to interact with each other, and find out the best ways that we can improve our packaging. We can support the Prime Minister's dream projects of Make in India and take this country to the next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Manoranjan Hota, Advisor, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. He has over 33 years of professional experience in environmental impact assessment, compliance, sustainability, environmental health, environmental governance, project management in pollution control, biosafety, hazardous waste management, policy, LCA, environmental management and audit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on dais our chief guest, Dr. Manoranjan Hota.
Good morning to all of you. Mr. Gupta, Professor Ghosh, Dr. Shah, and Dr. Alam on the dais, and ladies and gentlemen on the other side of the event. Let me at the outset compliment Dr. Shah to pioneer this kind of workshop or conference to make aware that what is happening actually from the drawing board to the grassroots level. That's the key. I am sure, because in the association with Dr. Shah almost like 25 years, which we have worked not only on this occasion but on many occasions, how to develop policies, how to develop rules, regulations, which can be actually practically can be translated and can be implemented at a country level and at an international level. That reminds me, why this is required. The hardcore science which Professor Shah is dealing in this institute, or Professor Ghosh does it in his IITs, is limited to that 4 walls. But what is the issue which we are doing is how to translate the hardcore science to the common man. That's the key. Then only if it is translated and implemented at a ground level, then only Professor Shah or Dr. Ghosh will be very much happy that their labor, whatever they have done, is really seen the day of light. And the interface which we are in the ministry is we are the interface between you and the labs. So they develop a kind of substance or kind of primer to the policy. We make the policy, and then policy is translated like this kind of conference or workshop, and it can be translated to you. And you are the people who actually carry out this policy to the ground level. And to enable this, Mr. Gupta is the more enabling situation, which actually translates from the industrial perspective. I still remember one of the key issues in relation to the Gutka pouch. I think Dr. Shah will remember. There was a direction from the Supreme Court that the pouches are banned for particular minimum, and we had a lot of trouble. How to convince the, and this is another layer. Policy has been made, translated, implemented, but then we have to convince the legal fraternity that how to go about it. Whether this pouch, which has been plastic pouch, which is being banned, and Dr. Shah has given a very good example of hygroscopic nature of that particular chemical, and it blasts in between to Colombo, and then particular hygroscopic nature of this gutka, when it is used to not being packed in the plastic pouch, what could have been the situation. So those are the practical situation, practical scenarios why the packaging industry has a leading role to play with. I still remember, if you see the Ministry of Environment, who has been advocating for the waste management, the pollution control, and now in relation to the climate change, has to take all those issues into an account. Now the another example, when we talk of 1986, when this Bhopal gas accident happened, that is exactly precisely the same issues where the protection to the large bunker of the chemicals, potassium isocyanate, was not taken proper care. So therefore, the packaging industry and then packaging process plays a much more key issues in terms of storing the quality, quantity into a more pragmatic manner. Now, this reminds me in way back in 1992, when I was working on the life cycle analysis. I was analyzing the life cycle assessment of glass versus the plastic, which is the best. Now, what is the environmental impact of a glass and what is the environmental impact of a plastic vis-a-vis the paper. Now, when I did that, whatever the result was out, that glass was not the ideal situation because of so much of manufacturing process and carbon emission. Now, if if you recollect that, and then in a legal parlance, you must have heard that some of the courts have given, in some of the courts, some of the PIL have been filed that the plastic packaging should be banned, you know. So then you go back to the glass packaging. Now if you take a LCA, whichever is the best. So now the question is, you are the guys, and you are the industries, has to convince the legal fraternity that this is how you have to take it, the example, rather than more whimsical decision. Somebody says that plastic to be banned or somebody is to be banned. It is more a question of management rather than banning any other things. So therefore, how to manage this? How to manage this? I mean, the banning is the simplest way. Though how to manage? So you have to organize such kind of workshop. I would suggest if you can also invite some of the legal luminaries also this kind of conference or workshop. So they also need to be aware of that what is actually to be taken into consideration while deliberating a kind of judgment. So therefore, I would suggest more than the event system, as Dr. Shah has given in his remark initially, that there has to be a common platform, common policy, the common regulation, both national and international. I still remember I think 8 or 10 years back when we started doing this uniform, packaging, so for in collaboration or in liaison with the event system. Although that is still under the process, which will be notified, I don't know when. So that will give us a kind of a more advantage over many of our contemporary countries, both in Southeast Asia or South Asia, in terms of other developing countries. That how our packaging industry will grow much more faster. As Mr. Gupta said, we are only 3% of the total packaging industries. So I think we need to enhance much more in order to preserve the quality, preserve the nutrients, preserve the aim for which it has been packaged, particularly the drugs. Now the another issue which I need to, the glass versus the plastic. The drugs which are being packed now in the plastic bottles. So now that was also seen, if you use the glass, how much glass is required, how much raw materials are required, how much environmental damage or emission will be required. So that need to be completely a kind of a, I would suggest if you can bring out those kind of assessment and publish it, that what will be you are not going to be doing anything new, but then if you do a very more concise and more common parlance, that will help the policy makers or the legal luminaries or a common man at the street to know that which is the best. So now particularly this conference which is being organized by Indian Institute of Packaging, which is very premier institution of the Ministry of Commerce, is now doing a very, very good job. Let me also congratulate Dr. Shah and his team. And they are also the focal point for the DGS and the DGCA, which are controlling authority for the transportation of hazardous goods. Now, all this packaged goods, either it has to go by air or by road or by sea. So, and those need to be completely certified by the Indian Institute of Packaging, how it is done. So, in order to do that, they also has to follow the rules and regulations which are being notified by the government of India. And then not only they will be complying with, but they also has to educate the people or the shippers and where it is to be shipped. And during the transportation, what are the modalities, what are the precautions need to be taken care of, that has to be done. And perhaps you not only have to give this is a broad spectrum audience, but I think you need to go for every individual sections who are handling this right from the packaging, transportation, and then to the destination. Perhaps you have to have all the stakeholders appraisal as well as dissemination of information for that particular category. Probably, in my opinion, will be much more beneficial. Maybe you can prepare some kind of, or I don't know whether you must have prepared a kind of SOP for each stakeholders, which without going for much more technical details, the common worker can always find out A, B, C, D, so they can follow the process much more technically to that his level. So considering this importance, I personally feel that all the stakeholders who are directly or indirectly involved in the handling of shipment of dangerous goods and to understand about the regulation and also update themselves in order to overcome the technical barrier or knowledge barrier during the transportation of these goods. Finally, keeping the timeline in view, let me also compliment the Indian Institute of Packaging and also to compliment you to be here today to participate and witness this kind of conference. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I take the opportunity to introduce Dr. Tanveer Alam. He has more than 13 years of experience in the field of academic and research institutions. He has organized several conferences, workshops of national and international stature in different capacities. He is also a life member of different scientific and academic journals. He is also Associate Editor of Processed Food Industry and Asian Journal of Dairy Science. He is a Fellow of National Academy of Dairy Science. I request Dr. Tanveer Alam to propose word of thanks.
Thank you, Prerna. Very good morning. Respected Chief Guest, Guest of Honor, Special Guest, our Director, all speakers, delegates, invitees, alumni, and our sponsors, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Indian Institute of Packaging and my personal behalf, I feel honored and privileged to propose vote of thanks in the inaugural function of this national seminar. We indeed are grateful to our chief guest, Dr. Manoranjan Hotaji, Advisor, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. In spite of he was not keeping well, but thank you very much, sir. You are here to grace the inaugural function and inaugurate this national conference. I special thanks to our Vice Chairman of Indian Institute of Packaging, Dr. Subodh Gupta ji. He is always inspiring. Mr. Subodh Gupta ji, he is always inspiring for Indian Institute of Packaging, Delhi. My special thanks to Dr. A.K. Ghosh. He is our Chairman, Research and Education Subcommittee of Indian Institute of Packaging. He is always with us. Thank you very much, sir. And we are thankful to our director. He is minute-to-minute detailing to organize this program. I'm really, and to make this program a wonderful event. Thankful. Thank you, sir. And I'm extremely thankful to all sponsors. Without their financial help, this program was really not possible. Thanks to all sponsors.